networks tremendously. If you have not addressed the use of Java for your information system, I encourage you to do so. Java was created by Sun Microsystems for purchasing information and availability of the software in your area. Visit Sun Microsystems website at the location on your screen. In summary, I would like to say that new standardized information technologies such as ISDN, HDTV, DVD, and Java promise to make international as well as national communication easier, less expensive, and better in quality. They increase the flexibility of managers, professionals, and frontline workers to bring the information to people who need them rather than transport the people where the information is, thus saving the cost of unnecessary travel and time away from task. Provide a smart work environment in which managers can do more in less time by eliminating unnecessary paperwork and secretarial tasks. Make the desktop computer the means of production, thus transferring the manual production tasks to the robots and automated systems. And last but not least, make the desktop computer the means of learning about all the changes that are bound to happen around us. For learning how to learn will be the most important skill for all of us to not only keep our jobs, but thrive in them.
Thank you, Dr. Sava. We now invite your questions. We will try to answer as many as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call and that these questions be brief. Please call us directly at the phone or fax numbers which now appear on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. We have a call from Panama, from the Comisión del Canal de Panama. Welcome. Your question, please.
Good morning. Our question is, when do you expect DVD to become a mainstream standard like CD-ROM?
We have a question about DVD, CD-ROM. Who wants to take it?
The question was whether it was going to become standardized like CD-ROM. I think that probably would happen in the next 5 years or so. I've been to several stores and I have seen that they are just beginning to market DVD equipment, and I think it is RCA, which has about 6,000 movies on DVD, so it'll probably take about 5 years for this technology to settle down.
Okay. We have a question from Mexico, from Cuautitlan, the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, the Facultad de Estudios Superiores. Welcome. Your question, please.
Dr. Sava, from your point of view and your experience, we would like to know whether the Internet is a way of promoting computer videos and if there's a way of preventing this. The question is from Francisco Astor.
Dr. Sava.
Of course, as bandwidth becomes more and more available, video will also be available on the Internet. So I'm sure that Internet users are going to have access to video more in the future than ever before. But I didn't get the second half of your question, whether we can prevent this. I don't think that there is a way to prevent presenting video on the Internet. It's already there, and it will be there for a long time to come.
We have a question from... We have another question from Mexico. This question is from Coacalco. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes. To what extent will the new information technologies affect the educational process?
A good question. What do you think?
I think that it's going to be a tremendous benefit. I think just like this broadcast here, people who have expert knowledge will be able to transmit it to various parts of the world, whether it's through video conferencing or internet training. There are several products on the market today which allow you to do internet or actually training using internet technologies.
Yeah, the phrase "the death of distance in education" is something that strikes me in that regard. We have a question now from Medellin, Colombia. Do you believe that digital video disc technology is going to be a viable technology? What's your estimate of its shelf life?
I think it is going to be a viable technology. I think CD-ROM has pretty much run its course in terms of a useful technology. It was very useful in the past 5 years or so, but I think that consumers need more storage space, and I think that DVD is going to be the medium to provide that extra storage space. In addition, DVD is going to be a digital technology instead of the analog laser disc that was the technology before that, and I think that it will provide a lot more flexibility in terms of programming for interactive telecommunication that we didn't have before with the laser discs, for example.
We have a question from Brazil, from our friends at Key Communications in Rio de Janeiro. Welcome.
Good afternoon. What would be the tendency in the future? Would we use English as the almost exclusive language in Internet? If this is the case, wouldn't this be a limitation situation for the countries that do not speak English as their first language? Thank you.
This is a much asked question. What are your opinions on this?
I think it's a great question. And what I'm finding out is that when the Internet, in terms of applications, first started, it was primarily English. There's many, many applications today which allow you to use other languages, primarily German, Spanish, and French. So I think that you're able to publish whatever you want in your own language, and there's a lot of Spanish language websites out there.
Absolutely. I have seen other languages, Arabic, many other languages are on the Internet, so it is going to be an international medium of communication.
I believe there are some major controversies in France right now over the use of English on web pages and so on, that the government has a restriction against formally.
Yes, indeed. I just visited a site in France, and that site was dedicated to language teaching via the Internet, and they were doing needs assessment in several languages in several countries, including Spain and Portugal, Greece. And I think that that's probably one site to watch for language learning via the Internet.
Yes,
I can add something too. There are many, many websites out there today that have a combination of English and Spanish. So when you first come to the website, you're able to select the Spanish portion or the English portion.
Mm-hmm. So the language question may be improving even as we debate it.
It is, yes.
Absolutely. Also, don't forget that audio is available on the Internet, and the more it becomes available, the more you can speak in the language of your choice.
True. We have a question from Mexico, from the state of Jalisco, the Universidad de Guadalajara in Puerto Vallarta. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes, good morning. We are calling from the Westin Regina Hotel in Puerto Vallarta. We hope you visit as soon as the most beautiful hotel. I'm Eduardo Lopez. How could you capitalize the equipment that is now installed in businesses so that they don't become obsolete with these new technological advances, and so that we are still at the forefront for productivity?
A continuing challenge, yes.
I believe that the PC technology that is out there today is going to be your primary vehicle to actually deliver and to receive internet information. And I believe as long as you stick with those standards, a PC standard, you'll have an actual vehicle to get on the internet.
Okay. We have a question from Tlalnepantla in Mexico. Welcome. Your question.
Hello?
Hello.
Sí. We're from the Instituto Tecnológico Tlalnepantla. Engineer Alberto Gomez from the Industria Eléctrica Automotriz. During the last 10 years, the ED system has increased for the exchange of information, but those are more expensive than the MLS. The ED systems will disappear?
Okay. The changes over time.
I'm not sure what the question was. You understand the ED?
Could we get a clarification of the question? Would you mind repeating, please? We'll work with it as we have it.
I didn't get the question either. I think that it was about how long the older analog technologies was going to be useful to us.
Okay.
I think that was the question, and I think that we are going through a transition.
Okay, we have a question now from Coahuila in Mexico, the Universidad Tecnológico de Coahuila. Welcome, and your question, please.
Good morning. My question is the following. This type of technology, will it affect only a privileged sector and the rest of the population will fall behind?
The question of who benefits.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a challenge all over the world, including here in the United States, and I think that it pretty much depends on individual initiative. We all have to be diligent in learning the new technology. It really depends on individual choice. If you do not educate yourself, then you definitely will fall behind. So you have to be you have to keep abreast of this technology.
I think that it's clear that, for example, internet access in this country is very much associated with high demographic variables, higher education, higher income, and we could easily have an information-rich and information-poor split with the new technologies unless we have concerted public policies to counter that.
Yeah, I would agree with Dr. Saba. I think the real key to this is the technology is available, it is affordable. The key is the training piece of it, and the training part is that people who are less fortunate are actually educated on how to use it.
Okay, we have a question from Peru, from the Universidad Nacional de Ingeniería in Lima. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes, good morning. We're calling from the Universidad Nacional de Ingeniería. Our question is the following. For an educational institution which is ready to access to the new media through the massive use of fiber optics, what opportunities and threats should this organization have in making its projection in this field? And what things should this organization be careful with? Thank you.
Fiber optics, yes.
I think this is a management issue. When they mention, again, the technology is there, but what kind of information is available? So these are issues that need to be looked at from the university or the business perspective, and that's what is interesting about this technology. You can deliver what you want to deliver, and you can cover up what you don't want to deliver.
Fiber optics is just a big pipeline, and so you have to have the information capacity to run information through it. So from a management standpoint, if you have invested lots of money in developing a fiber optic plant, then the question is whether you have the information infrastructure to use that plant, and so that becomes the primary concern. Availability of information, availability of data and software, programming to run through the fiber optic lines.
Okay, we have a question now from Sinaloa, from the Colegio de Bachilleres Estado de Sinaloa in Mexico. Welcome.
Yes, good morning. My question is, Dr. Sava was mentioning the components of Java from Sun Microsystems. What is the future that you see for the ActiveX component from Microsoft Corporation? Thank you.
I think I'm going to refer that question to Mr. Mahon, who is more familiar with ActiveX than I am.
I think that you're going to see a combination of the uses of both. And again, it's going to be predicated on what operating system you're using. But in terms of being able to develop applications, Java and ActiveX will both be utilized.
Okay. We have a question from Coahuila in Mexico, the Instituto Tecnológico de Saltillo. Welcome. Your question, please.
Buenos días.
Good morning. We're calling from the Instituto Tecnológico de Saltillo. In the following question, please.
Buenos días.
Yes, good morning. As you have mentioned, one of the future tendencies in the usages of software is the use of virtual machines where you only use the application for the time when you need it and then you throw it away. That's the idea of SUM, as you mentioned. On the other hand, Microsoft expects every user to hold one of its licenses for a long time and to continue upgrading even if they are not using the same software. In your opinion, what will be the most dominant tendency in the future?
It's a very complex question. But there is a new technology called thin client or network computing, which is a counter to the Microsoft operating system. And primarily with Java, you will be able to use a thin client, meaning a less costly PC, to connect to the Internet.
We have a question from Guanajuato, from the Instituto Tecnológico de Celaya. Welcome. Your question, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to know if Java will replace other languages as the programming standard for the future.
Okay.
Well, a total changeover to Java is probably not possible or not even desirable. But as Java is a multi-platform language and it is a language for the Internet, I think that you will see a lot of Java applications in the next few years.
And no one can completely predict the future.
Certainly not me, no.
In Aguascalientes, we have a call from the Universidad Autónoma de Aguascalientes. Welcome. Your question, please.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
En base a la problemática económica,
Based on the economic problems,
¿cuál sería el factor más difícil
what would be the most difficult factor
para realizar un cambio de
in order to effect a change of systems from analogical to digital systems? And based on this, what is the most useful standard, most appropriate standard?
Analog to digital.
Well, I think it really depends on the needs of your organization, and it depends on a lot of factors that you need to consider for your particular situation. It's very hard for me to judge what standards or what criteria you need to look at in order to change from an analog system to a digital system. It is a very costly venture, and you need to take a look at your available resources, your plans for the future, the benefits that you are going to get from a digital system versus an analog system, and make those decisions very, very carefully for your own organization.
Yeah, this question and the previous one in terms of Java, I think that with technology, we don't want to be enamored with it. It looks your basic function you want to accomplish first. If you don't need to go from analog to digital, it doesn't make any sense to. In the U.S., there's still a lot of major corporations who are running COBOL programs, and C++ was supposed to replace COBOL 10 years ago. So I think it's more of a function of your organization and how you need to use these technologies.
There certainly is a gradual transition toward digital. Television, for example, broadcast television, faces a cost of billions of dollars in the next 15 years converting from analog to digital. something that's a massive change with a great amount of not only technological but the cost factors involved.
Absolutely, yes.
We have a question now from Celaya, Guanajuato. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes, to Dr. Saba, could you expand on your comments about the use of HDTV as opposed to traditional TV?
Okay.
Well, HDTV has been around as an idea for the last 10 years, and we have just beginning to see some movement on the part of the Federal Communications Commission here in the United States towards that standard. So it has been very, very slow. I also noticed yesterday in the news that Japan has now developed its own HDTV standard, a digital HDTV standard, and they are going to announce that pretty soon. So it is an open question yet. It hasn't been settled for at least the next foreseeable future, the next couple of years. And as Dr. Reel said, there is a massive dollar amounts attached to the turnover from the current analog systems to the new digital system. So it's still an open situation.
Mm-hmm. We have a question from Venezuela, from the Universidad Central de Venezuela in Caracas. Welcome. Your question, please.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity here at the Universidad Central de Venezuela. How could we maximize the traditional services, the document and information systems, with the use of the new information technologies, in particular the Internet, within the context of non-developed countries?
The practical problem of resources without lots of support under them.
Yeah, I think one of the ways with this technology, it is so new, meaning the Internet, that you're able to essentially, if you have a website, have it hosted in various locations. So if you're in an area where they do not have the resources, you're able to, through telecommunications, have your website hosted somewhere else. So it's not that you're fixed to a particular physical location to use the technology. That's the beauty of it. The Internet, we've been talking about standards, is pretty close to a standard, as you will see today, worldwide.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that this is one of the interesting features of the new digital technology, that you can share resources across borders. And this is something that we are just beginning to see here in the United States and Mexico. And I think that cross-border cooperation and collaboration to develop appropriate technologies is going to flourish in the next few years.
Do you think that it's really different with the Internet now making a relatively low-cost and very universal system available globally for the first time? Does this offer particular opportunities for developing countries where the resources are fewer?
I would totally agree with that. I think that for very low cost, I mentioned the network computer or even the low-cost PC which is coming out. If you have access to the Internet and a browser, you can essentially communicate anywhere in the world today.
Mm-hmm. And this is happening for commerce, for education, for government, across the board.
Yes, it is truly an information explosion.
We have a question from Puerto Vallarta, the state of Jalisco in Mexico. Welcome. Your question, please.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. We're calling from Puerto Vallarta, Universidad de Guadalajara, Puerto Vallarta. Our question is, how do you think that the electronic commerce and the electronic banking will affect the tourist industry through the Internet?
Yes, tourism.
Sí.
Tough question. I myself personally have been working with electronic commerce over the last 6 months. And one thing I'm seeing is that there are travel agencies coming online now which are allowing you to essentially book your, to actually book your flight, your hotel reservation. And if anything, it'll make it easier and probably what I would expect, cut out the middleman, so the cost of traveling will be more cost effective.
Mm-hmm. I have found in my own case that being able to browse the internet for options in travel can open lots of possibilities that I would not have gotten around to by telephone or regular post. That you have so much more information now at your fingertips that it really opens tourism to lots of new possibilities.
Yes. And I would like to add to that I think with the internet, if we're talking particularly Mexico, which is a travel mecca, that if a company has access and someone's email address who's been traveled there, they have a two-way communication link.
Mm-hmm. How about banking? He mentioned that the issue of commerce over the internet is complicated by privacy and control.
Right. That's a term called encryption and security. There are several companies in the U.S. who currently offer that feature. One is called CyberCash. There's one here in San Diego called First Virtual, which have set together standards with U.S. banks, and I'm sure the next phase is international U.S. banks, that you can conduct commerce in a secure fashion over the internet.
We have a question from Reynosa in Tamaulipas, the Instituto Politécnico Nacional. Welcome. Your question, please.
Sí, muy buenos días.
Yes, good morning.
De acá del Instituto
We're calling from the Instituto Politécnico Nacional, Reynosa unit at the border city.
Queremos hacer una pregunta.
We would like to ask you a question about what would be the price of the internet here in the city of Mexico and the whole country.
Okay, costs, price of the internet.
Yeah. I can tell you that in the U.S., most users for $20 per month are able to get on the internet. In your local area, there are what's called ISPs, Internet Service Providers. I really don't have a fixed cost on what they charge, but I know that throughout Mexico, I'm sure Latin America, there are many what's called Internet Service Providers that's where you get your connection to the internet.
Mm-hmm. I would start with your local telephone company and ask that question from your local telephone company, and the prices are very reasonable. The prices are very competitive throughout the world now.
Yes. And a question from Mexico, the Escuela Superior de Turismo in Mexico DF. Welcome. Your question, please.
This is Roberto Bravo Jiménez from the Escuela Superior de Turismo, Instituto Politécnico Nacional. Public educational institutions, by definition, always have budgetary problems in the use of new technologies, as you showed in this conference. We are afraid of change. What are the alternatives that we can consider, and with whom, so we're not out of sync with the technological development and that way lose productivity? Thank you.
Well,
very good.
Muy bien.
What we have done at San Diego State University in my Department of Educational Technology, we have started collaborative projects with industries around us. For example, a few years ago, Mr. Mohan and I started collaborating together on a distance education project. He from the the private sector rather, and I from the university, the public sector. So I think that those collaborative efforts between the public sector and the private sector, they have to expand if we're going to adopt new technologies for our universities and colleges.
It's a constant struggle. None of us can remain state-of-the-art all the time, and lots of strategic decisions have to be made from day to day. We have a question from Tampico in Tamaulipas. Welcome to our teleconference. Your question, please.
First of all, I would like to greet you and would like to know what are the advantages and disadvantages of this new technology for the Mexican businessman.
All right.
Okay. I would say that the primary advantages is that the Mexican businessman, with his product or service, can pretty much sell it worldwide. Probably the disadvantage is going to be able to work with his telecommunications carrier to get access to the internet. Those would probably be the major points.
But once you're on, then you're marketing to the rest of the world. You're not limited to the area with which you have been working before. So basically you're marketing in an international, global market.
Could I ask how, excuse me, how widespread is ISDN?
Yeah.
ISDN technology.
Yeah. When I think what you'll see from this presentation is that myself and Dr. Saab will be talking about standards, and I think that's the key worldwide today, is to use standards. And when we talk about using new technology, look at those standards. And what we're able to do is, for example, in the U.S., when I met Dr. Saba at Northern Telecom, we were at that time selling ISDN. It was not available to the public market. Now I have ISDN out of my home. So it's taken 10 years for that technology to roll out. I think it's happening quicker in a shorter period of time today.
Absolutely. 10 years ago, ISDN was not available in many areas of San Diego. Today, it's available almost in any neighborhood. The most important question about any of these new technologies is that these new technologies are user-driven. And by that I mean that you have to set the agenda for your telecommunication company, for your local area carrier. You have to go and educate them as what your needs are for these new technologies. And once they become educated that you really have a good application for the technology, the chances are that they will provide that technology to you. Sort of a chicken and egg situation, if you will. They are waiting for the market, and the market is waiting for them. So somebody has to take the initiative. And in this new technology, the initiative is on the part of the user and not on the part of the industry or the telecommunication companies necessarily.
Thank you for your answers and your questions in this first module. Now let us turn to Module 2, in which Mr. Mahone will explain the nature and uses of new global systems of interconnectivity available to us.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be invited to speak at this world-class performance series. For the past 18 years, I have been active in the application of information technology for industry and government. For many years, I have worked for Fortune 500 companies such as Wang and Northern Telecom that were on the leading edge of developing new technologies. More recently, my focus has been in working with small to mid-sized businesses. I have chosen this market segment for two reasons. First, with regard to information technology, they are the ones that can benefit most from electronic automation that can be achieved from the integration of internetworking operations, such as the Internet and Intranet. Second, the recent explosive growth of the Internet has made most advances in information technology affordable for most businesses. Many of the uses of the Internet, such as email and wide-area networking, have been in use by large corporations for many years. Beginning in the middle of 1995, the sheer number of companies offering Internet products and services make these same enabling technologies available and affordable for any business, especially